Carl Linnaeus was born in the southern Swedish province of Småland in 1707 and is considered to be one of the most influential scientists of his time. His life's work was to develop and refine a way to group life on Earth, or to classify it. So straightforward was his system, it is still used by scientists and understood by people across the world today. His father, Niels Ingmarsson Linnaeus, was both an avid gardener and a Lutheran pastor, and Carl showed a deep love of plants and a fascination with their names from a very early age. While studying medicine at both the universities of Lund and the University of Uppsala in Sweden, he devoted a large amount of his time to the study of plants, and in 1732 he mounted a botanical expedition to Lapland. Over 5 months he travelled some 3,000 miles, collecting biological specimens and taking notes. In 1734 he mounted another expedition to central Sweden.
He was an empiricist. He didn't believe things that he hadn't seen with his own eyes. He was very reluctant to take on trust something that somebody had written about.
In 1735 Linnaeus moved to the Netherlands, and it was in that same year that he published his most well-known work, the Systema Naturae, or the System of Nature. In it he outlined a new system for the naming of all living things.
There are two main things that Carl Linnaeus tends to be known for. The one is his classification systems, which at the time were really rather revolutionary, particularly in the plant kingdom, rather less so amongst the animals. And the second thing is his introduction of a new naming system using a genus name and a species name, the so-called binomial system. Now, of the two, it's the latter, it's the naming system that is his primary legacy.
This item is the first edition of Systema Naturae, the one where Linnaeus actually outlines his sexual system for classifying plants, basically by the number of stamens and the arrangement of the reproductive organs. So this is the first time it's appeared in print, and so that's why it's important. You can see it's very large, and I tend to explain it as being the 18th century version of an Excel spreadsheet, because you can see it's very table-like. By the time the 10th edition appeared in 1758, this had shrunk from this really large size to a much more sort of portable thing, but it had gone from only 11 pages to 2 fat volumes.
Returning to Sweden in 1738, he practiced medicine, specialising in the treatment of syphilis, and lectured in Stockholm before being awarded a professorship at Uppsala University in 1741. Throughout his life, Linnaeus showed an interest in nature and the systems which govern it. He wrote not just about classification, but also about ecology, how organisms interact with their environment. He explored food chains and even defined the concept of race, dividing humans into 4 groups: Americanus, Asiaticus, Africanus, and Europeanus. Forced to retire from teaching in 1774 by a stroke, Linnaeus suffered a further stroke and eventually died in 1778. Linnaeus was driven by a lust for all nature and the desire to understand and classify it. His legacy remains and is used by the many dedicated scientists today who are driven by that same desire.